On today's Hot Zone, we're going to talk to a former gang member out of Chicago and find out what he thinks about the Black Lives Matter movement and all this violence that's going on around the country. It's coming up right now.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, thanks for watching the Hot Zone. Today I've got a special guest on, and I'm not going to take a long time introducing him because I want to get right to him. His name is Kash Lee Kelly. And Kash Lee Kelly used to be a member of the Latin Kings gang in Chicago. I hope I got that right. Kash, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but tell me a little bit about the neighborhood you grew up in and what initially got you into this gang.
Well, where I grew up, it was always that. There was always Latin Kings around. That's who raised me up. My dad wasn't around when I grew up because he was murdered when I was a kid, very young, far back before I can even remember. And I had a stepfather who really didn't like me too much because I was black, And in the neighborhood I grew up in, them guys protected me. They brought me up. They made me feel welcome. They made me feel family. And that's what led me ultimately into becoming a Latin King. It's just that's what I knew. And they treated me better than my own family did. So
amazing. So I was going to ask you about your relationship with your dad, because I've often said that America doesn't have a violence problem. It has a gang problem. And it doesn't really have a gang problem. It has a fatherlessness problem.
I agree.
And I was going to ask you about that. That lack of a strong father figure in your life led you to go look for somebody
Yes.
or something to fill that void, right?
Yes.
So what did that lead to? I mean, what as you came up in the Latin Kings and that kind of thug life, I guess, what did that look like? You have to understand, most of the people you're talking to here, at least I would say most of the people that watch my show come from that other America that knows nothing of the kind of life that you led. So explain that to us.
Well, I mean, to me, it was normal. It was normal to go outside and hear gunshots. It was normal to drop down when you walk into the corner store because somebody was shooting. It was normal to get into fights with people, even at the age of like 7, 8 years old. It was normal to get into fights with kids that were in school that were wearing, different colors or wearing their hat the wrong way. It was all normal. Drugs was normal. Guns was normal. Violence was normal. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I actually thought it was kind of cool growing up. I thought it was, fun because I was always trying to be the toughest one. And I was in a lot of fights. And we were taught to stay away from the police, don't talk to the police, to look out for one another. And even then, like that, you didn't see the hypocrisy until you got older. When I got older is when I seen that that's not actually what it is. They don't look out for you. You get used. And I got used. I got used to make money. I got used to, cause violence. And it was wrong, I'm not going to say I wish it never happened because it made me who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It made me exactly who I am today. And for me to be able to, speak to people about it and also bridge the gap for people, like you said, that they never been out there. They don't know anything about it. So
Right.
that they can see that life it's very real for a lot of people even today, for a lot of children, more importantly. Because, a grown man, you could get out. You can make a difference in your life. You could change if you want to. And that was the thing. A lot of people like me, they stay where they are and they stay comfortable. And I couldn't allow myself to be that once I had children because not having a father affected me that way. And I said, if I ever had kids, I'm going to be the father that I always wanted. So it's a real.
So I was going to ask you
bad
what got you out of that. It was starting to have children.
Yes, my children. And not just that, I started going to church and reading a lot, reading different literature, especially the Bible. The Bible was a big thing for me. A lot of things, man, but I felt God pulling me away from there and my heart. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so, I'm kind of struck by, it seems like every young man, I've got 3 boys. And how many boys do you have?
I got 4 boys.
4 boys. So
5 boys.
5 boys. You said you got 8 kids, so I could see where you might have to, wait a minute, I got to count.
No, I'm counting children that aren't biologically mine as well. Biologically, I have 4 boys, but all together, I've got 5 boys.
I got you. Okay. So, and I've got 3, 2 are biological, one's adopted. Um,
Okay.
and one thing I've noticed in any boy that you meet, and this is true anywhere in the world, really, is that boys are filled with testosterone. They have this free floating energy that they've got to get out.
Yeah.
They're aggressive by nature, and that's not nurture so much. Although nurture can increase that aggressiveness or decrease that aggressiveness. You know, you can try to squeeze it out of a boy, or you can try to channel it into something healthy, or it can be used for negative things. So
Mm-hmm.
what I've noticed is that every young man at some point starts to ask himself that question, like, what do I have to do to prove myself to the world around me? What do I have to do to make people know that I'm a man, that I've got what it takes, you know? And we all try to answer those questions differently. Sometimes, many times, the manifestations of that are very negative. They're very harmful to
Yeah.
society at large and to ourselves. In my case, we used to do a lot of stupid things. I was a latchkey kid, so my parents weren't around to catch me doing a lot of these things. But we would play this game where we'd climb up on the roof of the house, 1-story ranch house, and we had these bushes that grew right up to the eaves, you know?
Yeah.
And so we played this game where you had to stand there and have your hands down by your sides and dive into the bush head first. And if you stuck, you won. And if you fell out, you had to go do it again, you know? I mean, we just destroyed those bushes. When I think about that, like, there just were some connections that were not being made in here, man.
Yeah.
You know, but pain is a good teacher.
Yeah.
If what doesn't kill you makes you smarter, if not
Yes.
stronger, hopefully. But I also saw a lot of very negative, you know, destructive ways of trying to prove one's manhood
Yeah.
in my culture, which was different from yours. But from what you're describing, it sounds like that's basically what young men were doing, is they were trying
Mm-hmm.
to answer that question, and the path they were shown to prove yourself as a man is to
Mm-hmm.
engage in violence, engage in criminal activity. And there wasn't a dad around to go, stop that, and smack you upside the head and
Right.
teach you the right way to channel that aggressiveness into something else.
Well, you know, and see, that's where it's funny at, because I had my stepdad, right? But here's where it gets careful with how you raise your children, because my stepdad treated me differently than he treated his own children. And even if children that have fathers, if their father's not being a father, then that child will still feel the same way as someone who doesn't have one.
Yeah.
And it'll actually push him out even more to want to go and do the things that I did. And I think that that's very important to touch on, because it's not just the fatherless, it's the fathers that are absent while being there, or the fathers that are too hard while being there. So that's a big thing. And it did. Like my
Yeah, you can
father,
really crush a kid's spirit
yeah,
by being too overbearing on him, but you also, a kid needs guardrails in his life. And I think when you
yes,
give a kid those guardrails, he feels secure within them.
definitely.
And he knows, if I go too far this way, I'm going to bounce off that and it's going to hurt. Well, then it feels a lot safer than if there's no guardrails and there's just a
You're
cliff
right.
there for you to plummet.
Oh no, you're definitely right. Because with my children, they have structure. They got guardrails. They know. It's just like I don't do like how my stepfather did me, like the beatings or the language that was used towards me to directly like degrade me,
Yeah.
or make me feel less than I was, or less than the children that were around me that were his. You know, so you're definitely right.
And you know what I've found, when a father is directly degrading to his children, I think that comes from a place of insecurity on his part. I
Definitely.
think because I've done things in raising my boys that I'm not proud of, where I've been too harsh with them, or where I've said an unkind word, or something I really didn't mean, or that I knew was later upon reflection was not edifying to my son. And I had to go back and apologize to him and tell him I was wrong for saying that. But when I really think about my motivations, it's because my son embarrassed me, or I was afraid he would embarrass me. And so it wasn't about what's best for him. It was about I don't want to get embarrassed. It was, I'm too insecure to face the opinions of the people that I really don't care about.
Ego, yeah.
And yeah. And so, or it's either that or it's just flat out passivity on my part for not being willing to expend the energy to do the right thing and to stand up and either tell my son, look, that was wrong, not you're wrong, not you're worthless, but that was a worthless thing to do. I
Yeah.
just had a conversation actually the other day with one of my sons, and it went really well. My sons are older now, and I think that they finally are starting to get, like, hey dude, I'm on your side in this. Like, I want what's best for you, you want what's best for you, we're both fighting for the same thing. And guess what, I've been down the road before, so I know where all the potholes are, man. And
Yeah.
I don't want you to fall into this big pit that I fell into, so I'm trying to help you go around it, right? So that's why you need to listen to me. But I kind of had to get on my son about something. I felt like he was being passive in an area in his life and he just needed to step up. But he trusts me enough now that he didn't get defensive. He stood there and he just looked at me as I said my piece. And then I said, all right, I'm done. I'm not mad at you. I just needed to say that to you because I care about you and I want what's best for you. And he just said, okay, Dad, I get it. You know,
Hey,
and man,
that's
what an
amazing.
amazing way
That is
to have a
amazing.
relationship like that with your son.
That's how I
Would
love my kids, man. My boys, we're all close, man. My kids, they're my everything. And you know, you see them on my Facebook. They are, they keep me, the me that
Yeah,
I am now, the guy that I like. I like who I see when I look in the mirror, and
that's
it's
great.
definitely a direct effect of my children.
Absolutely.
To
And
feel their
so
love.
you got pretty popular on social media when you kind of you made a post back when the George Floyd thing first happened
Hmm.
that was just what you said in that video. It was just a heartfelt video of you sitting in your car and going, look guys, we want people to value Black lives, but they're not going to do that if we don't value Black lives. And you just were very straightforward and you kind of broke with the narrative
Hmm.
to some extent. And I imagine you probably got quite a bit of pushback from people in your own community.
Yeah,
But I think there are probably a lot of people in your community who secretly said, right on, man.
they
Tell me
love you
about that
guys.
journey. What happened and what changed your mind and kind of made you go that direction?
Well, let me tell you, man. I've always been a person, especially since I became a father. I love knowledge. It's like an OCD with me. Like I'm always looking for the next thing to learn, the next
Yeah,
barrier to break through.
yeah,
I'm always reinventing myself. And it's just because I want to be better for my children. So that's just something that I do. And I'm always trying to set the best example for them. So these things come up with George Floyd one day, and these people come out and start to protest. And I'm watching it in my own city, and I'm like, what the hell are they doing? They standing against the police, and it's one of my friends. They're standing against the police, talking crazy to the police, saying all types of stuff. And I'm like, I know that cop, and I know this guy, and this guy's been nothing but good to us. He ain't never did nothing wrong to us, but yet he's saying that to him, and it like infuriated me because I'm like, why would you? Well, the whole premise of it was, why would you guys come out and protest against the police that are good? These police have done nothing but their job and been very cool to all of us. There's not a need for Black Lives Matter in our city because Black lives do matter, just like white lives matter and just like brown lives matter in our city. There's not a racist problem. There's not a bad police problem. It doesn't happen where we're from. So why in the world would you be standing out there talking about these police the way that you are? Well, it's because the media told them that Black people getting killed by police left and right. It's happening. It's a pandemic, you know? And it's not hard to prove that to be false. When I went out there and I talked to him and I told him, I said, bro, I understand how you feel about, you know, with what you see on the news, but let me ask you something. How many people do you know that's actually been beat by the police or killed by the police in Hammond, Indiana? And he said, well, none. I said, how many do you know in Chicago? Well, none. Oh, and no, and I threw in there that didn't deserve it. let me make sure I clarify. I said that didn't deserve it.
Yeah, that weren't like shooting at the police or attacking
Yeah,
the police officers.
Exactly. And he couldn't name one. So he was scratching his head there for a minute. I go, so why would they tell you that in the news that this is something that's just happening all the time? And then look at how everybody's in an outrage right now, believing it. And then it changed him up. He was like, you know what, you're right. I said, we're being controlled, man.
Okay, folks, we're going to have to stop it right there, but we're going to pick up the rest of this conversation on the next episode because we got so much good stuff from Kash Lee Kelly that I want you to hear every word. Stay tuned.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.